Everyone. Hello, sir. All good morning and welcome to Meet Your Fund Manager Show. And today we have हमारे पास एक बहुत ही शानदार, जबरदस्त, मजबूत और बहुत ही इंटेलिजेंट एंड काफी सीजन फंड मैनेजर है मिस्टर आदित्य खेमानी। इनका 14 साल का एक्सपीरियंस है एंड 10 साल इन्होंने 12 साल इन्होंने ऑलमोस्ट एचएसबीसी में बिताया है। इसके अलावा सर ने ऑलमोस्ट एसबीआई से लेके तो आईसीआईसी तक और मॉर्गन स्टैनली में भी काफी काम किया है। सो आज इनके पूरे रिच एक्सपीरियंस का हमको बहुत सारा फायदा मिलेगा। सर, वेलकम टू द शो ऑफ मीट योर फंड मैनेजर।
थैंक यू सो मच सर।
थैंक यू। सो हम लोग वक्त जाया करते हुए चलते हैं हमारे पहले प्रश्न की तरफ कि सर ऑलमोस्ट 7,500 से ऑलमोस्ट 17,000 के लेवल पे हम लोग पहुंचे। मार्च 2020 से आज हम लोग सितंबर में खड़े हैं। ऑलमोस्ट 10,000 पॉइंट का रैली हुआ है निफ्टी में प्रिसाइजली। क्या लगता है, क्या मतलब आपकी व्यू क्या है? रिटेल इन्वेस्टर ने क्या करना चाहिए? बहुत सारे लोग साइड लाइन में खड़े हैं, पैसा लेके खड़े कि बाजार जब करेक्ट होगा तब आएंगे। कुछ लोग सोच रहे हैं कि चलो ठीक है डाल देते हैं, कुछ लोग में डर है। सो सर, योर व्यू ऑन दिस लेवल ऑफ द मार्केट?
Look, sir, market is ultimately a reflection of the earnings and the economy. In case economy does well, market अच्छा करेगी. अगर economy नहीं अच्छा करेगी, market नहीं अच्छा करेगी. So हम last 4-5 years से बहुत सारे disruption हुए हैं. Like it started with the demonetization, उसके बाद IL&FS का credit crisis हुआ, उसके बाद GST implementation का short term impact आया, and then finally COVID has been the mother of all crises. So last 4-5 years, sir, economy has not been able to grow at a good rate. So it is reasonable to expect now that going ahead, the economy will make up for some of the lost ground in over the years. So that is a broad thesis, sir, why I would be bullish on the market. Because ultimately, it's a corporate profit to GDP ratio. That is very important ratio we need to track. So if we see right now, corporate profit to GDP ratio has been typically around 4.5-5% over the last 15-20 years on an average. But currently it is hovering at 2 to 2.5%, which means that we are at the cyclical bottom as far as the earnings is concerned. So which means that we are probably at the start of a strong earning growth cycle for the next 2-3 years. And when that happens, market does well. But the only thing to note here is that some bit of uptick in the higher earning growth is already being captured in the stock prices. So maybe market return could be a tad lower than what is the earning growth of corporate India. Hence, I would say that for investors already invested, he should not get too much bothered. He should enjoy the fruits of his investment, and his return will compound at a reasonable 13 to 15% over the next 2-3 years. That would be my broad thought process on an existing investor. But for a new investor, obviously it is very easy to say, because we tend to see last 1 year market has given 50, 60, 70% return, and we think we cannot put money at these levels. But we have to see the data in a different way. If we see the data on a last 3 year or last 5 year return, you will see last 3 year return has been around 40 to 60% for most indices, small cap, mid cap, large cap. And when you analyze that 40 to 60% number, it means they have just given you a 13 to 15% return. So it's a much more reasonable number versus what last 1 year return shows you actually. So I think when you look at that data, it will kind of give you more confidence that still there is a healthy return to be made in the years ahead. And more so when we are probably, it looks like we are at the start of a strong earning growth cycle going ahead. So that would be my advice to new investors also. Don't get too worried. Smallest correction one gets a chance, one should, try to put money into the market. But more importantly, one's asset allocation is very important. So one has to see what is the right allocation for equity for that investor, and accordingly use this opportunity to go up to the required allocation level, sir.
So आप ये भी नहीं बोल रहे कि बाजार बहुत महंगा है, बट एट द सेम टाइम आप ये पक्का बोल रहे हैं कि स्टे इन्वेस्टेड रहना चाहिए. दैट इज वेरी वेरी नाइस एडवाइस व्हाट एक्चुअली यू आर गिविंग. तो प्रोबेबली बाजार बहुत महंगा नहीं, बाजार बहुत सस्ता नहीं, बाजार फेयरली वैल्यूड. दैट्स व्हाट आप बोलना चाहते हैं, इफ आई एम नॉट रॉन्ग, राइट सर? ऑलराइट, ग्रेट.
वही है सर, देखो.
हाँ, नहीं प्लीज प्लीज, या
नहीं सर. Sir, look, market में earning growth is very important. So 2014 से 2019-20 आप देखोगे ना, earning growth was very low actually for the corporate India. But last 12-18 2 years, we are seeing factors are becoming positive for a stronger earning growth going ahead. So जब वो phase होता है ना, earning growth strong रहता है ना, market usually tends to do well in that time frame.
So great. Yes. सर इक्विटी इन्वेस्टर जितने भी रहते हैं ना, ये हमेशा शिफ्ट करते हैं, ये हमेशा ड्रिफ्ट करते हैं लार्ज कैप से मिड कैप की तरफ या स्मॉल कैप की तरफ, मतलब वो दो सेगमेंट में ऐसा काम चलता है. तो उन्होंने कैसे अपने आप को पोजीशन करना चाहिए? व्हाट इज योर टेक ऑन दिस?
देखिए, यूजुअली माने at most points of time one also doesn't know mid cap will do well or large cap will do well.
Perfect.
Like last 18 months mid caps have done better. But उसके पहले 2 साल 2018 to 2020 large cap did much better. But at most times even a professional advisor investor doesn't know कि कौन सा अच्छा करेगी. So my experience has been having a balanced allocation of 50-50 between large and mid cap is an optimal asset allocation, because what we've seen in the past, if you see last 3-year data, last 5-year data, last 10-year data, last 15-year data, you will see there's an index Nifty large mid 250. It is an index which has 50% large cap and 50% mid cap, and that index is rebalanced every 3 months. You will see that index has done much better than a large cap index Nifty. At the same time, has done much better than a mid cap and the small cap index also on a 3, 5, 10-year time frame. So that index has kind of given you the highest return over most time frame. So hence I've come to that conclusion that in case you're a long-term investor, I mean, no point guessing mid cap will do better or large cap will do better, but better have a 50-50 allocation between large and mid cap in your portfolio, and you will emerge a winner in a longer time frame. I'm not able to show you the data. I don't know whether I can share a data to you. I can share a data.
Yeah, you can share. Yes, you can share. I can make it a post. You can share the screen, sir. You can share the screen. You can share.
Yeah, just 1 second.
Yeah, sure.
It's visible, sir?
Yeah, it's absolutely visible, sir.
So, I mean, what I was saying was, look, there are 4 things. Nifty is a large cap index, mid cap is a mid cap index, small cap is a small cap index, and Nifty large mid is an index which has 50% large cap and 50% mid cap. Amazing. You will see this index, a 50-50, has done the best over 5-year time frame, has done the best over 10-year time frame. I don't have the data yet 3 years, but 3 years also it has done the best. So one can see a 50-50 allocation has given you the highest return over most time frame, and that is more than small cap index also. So I would say that a 50-50 allocation would work the best for most investors in case one is a long-term investor.
So you get both the best from large cap best and the mid cap best, and then you probably merge the best into the best that way. That is how actually the things are working better, right?
Yeah, you're correct, sir.
सर इसके पहले कि हम लोग बात करें कि स्टॉक्स कैसे पिकअप करने हैं, स्टॉक का पोर्टफोलियो मैनेज कैसे करना है, या लेट्स अंडरस्टैंड द बिजनेस मॉडल एंड द कांसेप्ट ऑफ QGLP जो कि मोतीलाल ओसवाल का है. एंड आई वुड रिक्वेस्ट यू टू प्लीज थ्रो सम लाइट कि मोतीलाल ओसवाल QGLP पे लार्ज एंड मिड कैप पे कैसे काम करता है और कैसे वैल्यू प्रोपोजिशन आप इस पे लोगों को देते हैं या फिर इन्वेस्टर्स को मिलता है.
श्योर सर, देखिए QGLP इज अ प्रोसेस. आई एम श्योर बहुत सारे इन्वेस्टर ने सुना होगा. ये एक फ्रेमवर्क है जो कि हमारे फाउंडर रामदेव जी ने डिवाइस किया है, जहाँ पे Q स्टैंड होता है क्वालिटी ऑफ कंपनी के लिए, G स्टैंड्स फॉर ग्रोथ, अर्निंग ग्रोथ ऑफ द कंपनी, L स्टैंड्स फॉर लॉन्जिविटी ऑफ द अर्निंग ग्रोथ, माने कितना लंबा तक हाई अर्निंग ग्रोथ सस्टेन कर सकता है, एंड P स्टैंड्स फॉर प्राइस, व्हाट इज द प्राइस यू पे फॉर अ स्टॉक. सो एट मोतीलाल ओसवाल, I mean, we before deciding कौन सा stock लेना है कि नहीं लेना है, we subject that company on that framework. How does that company stand on QGLP parameter? So just to, I mean, make you understand on a simple basis, like what is the quality of a company? जैसे आप कोई भी कंपनी लोगे X, आप पहले देखोगे what is the quality of the company. It is a very subjective assessment. तो उस पर आपको कुछ चीज देखने पड़ेंगे. जैसे firstly you need to see what is the promoter background, what is the management background. You Google it and see whatever actions they've taken over the last 3-5 years. You go through all their videos over YouTube. So you'll get a thought process ki how are they thinking on the business. also you know what are the actions they've taken in the business. So you know that what has been their past actions, what have they said, and how they have done right now. So you'll get some sense of quality of the promoter and the management. Secondly, any businesser is set up to generate returns. अगर आप return नहीं बनाओगे, business is bad. So how do you measure the return of a business? So you can measure the return through a return on equity or a return on capital employed. I mean, just to put in layman term, अगर आप 100 रुपये invest किए हो business में, whether you are making 15 rupee, 20 rupee, 30 rupee, what is the return on that investment? So any investor can see the ROE or the ROC of that company, and higher the ROE, ROC, it is better. Thirdly, sir, any business is again set up to generate cash. अगर आप 100 रुपये profit बना रहे हो, but a very small part of that converted to cash at the end of the year, that business is an inferior business. So you need to see what part of that profit after tax gets converted to either a free cash flow or a operating cash flow at the end of the year. Higher the cash conversion, which means better is a dynamic business model of the company. So these are some of the checklists through which we look what is the quality of the company. Then coming to the G and L, sir. G is nothing but earning growth of the company, and L is the longevity of that earning growth. कितने साल हाई अर्निंग ग्रोथ सस्टेन कर सकती है. तो ये सर GNL अगेन इज अ वेरी सब्जेक्टिव असेसमेंट, बट ये आप किसी तरह असेस कर सकते हो. जैसे हाउ डू यू नो अ कंपनीज अर्निंग ग्रोथ विल ग्रो एट अ हाई रेट फॉर लॉन्ग पीरियड ऑफ टाइम. तो आप कुछ क्वेश्चंस होते हैं. आप जैसे आप देखो हाउ बिग इज द इंडस्ट्री. इन केस द इंडस्ट्री साइज इज बिग, which means the runway for a company in that industry to go at a faster rate is much higher. Secondly, आप देखो what is the market share of that company. Is that market share increasing or not increasing? So, I mean, that will tell you कि कितना runway है again. Thirdly, how big is the unorganized part in that industry? Because generally we've seen over time organized players take market share from the unorganized guy. So right. These are some of the things through which we assess कि कितना earning growth कंपनी का आ सकता है आगे चल के. And also you should not forget that you also need to see what is the earning growth of that company last 3 year or last 5 year, because that gives you a sense कि ये कंपनी क्या ग्रोथ कर रही थी, so that you have a better sense कि आगे चल के क्या ग्रोथ हो सकता है. So on these things then you come to an assessment what is the earning growth of that company and what is the longevity of that earning growth. And finally P. The P is nothing but the price. P is the price you pay for that company or for that stock. I mean, simplistically speaking, the price earning ratio or price to book tells you how inexpensive or how expensive the stock is. But in investing, it is not as simple as that. Yes. You need to assess that longer term. Again, that G and L assessment will help you come to a conclusion that what is the multiple you can. I mean, generally we don't come to a conclusion what is the multiple you can pay. That is what market decides. But through a QGL assessment, you get to know what is the quality of the business. Hence, P comes to the picture from that point of view. So I think, and all four is important. Q is equally important as G. G is equally important as L, and P is the most important, because for a good business, in case you pay an obscene multiple, then I mean you won't make return.
Agree.
Good company has to be a good stock also. So I think the amalgamation of all QGLP helps us come to a conclusion that what is a good company and what is not a good company. And more importantly, today I think for any investor, or for that matter any retail investor, social media has become so evolved actually. I mean, Twitter is the best learning tool for that matter. And also, I mean, you have websites or apps like a stock screener and a stock edge. I think these are wonderful. So today, I think when you know the basic concepts, you can understand what not to invest in. Because ultimately what to invest is an elimination process. Suppose you have 100 stocks, you keep on eliminating what not to invest in. Then you come to a smaller list and then fine tune that process. So I think that these are the basic tenets of, our QGLP investing framework, what we practice in-house.
सर ये QGLP आपने बताया, मतलब इट्स रियली रियली इंटरेस्टिंग। नाउ अभी इसमें ना एक बहुत प्रैक्टिकल डिफिकल्टी रहती है कि एक रिटेल इन्वेस्टर को, बिकॉज आप तो फंड मैनेजर हैं, सो यू स्टडीड थ्रू, यू हैव अ ग्रेट एक्सपीरियंस दैट वे, तो ये आपके लिए जितना आसान रहता है उतना ही एक रिटेल इन्वेस्टर के लिए काफी डिफिकल्ट रहता है। तो मेरा नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन उसी के ऊपर है कि नाउ कमिंग टू द पॉइंट कि रियली एक रिटेल इन्वेस्टर ने स्टॉक को पिक कैसे करना है, और व्हाट उसने वो बाय करने के पहले क्या देखना है, और जितना आपने QGLP का कॉन्सेप्ट बताया, अब ये रिटेल इन्वेस्टर के लिए डिफिकल्ट टास्क, तो थोड़ा सा इस प्रोसेस को सिंपल करके बताइए कि हाउ एक्चुअली यू रियली हैव टू अंडरस्टैंड टू पिक अप द स्टॉक।
देखिए सर, investing is not a investing is not that simple and this thing. And
Agree.
I mean, I've been in the market for 16 years.
Yes.
I spend 9 10 hours daily.
Yes.
So I mean, we're also learning from, I mean, every day.
I agree.
So from that point of view, obviously reading few books. I think Twitter is a very good medium actually. I mean, one should add people who are good so that one develops that thought process, how to look at company, how to look at stock, then use tools like these screeners and all to come to some assessment. How is the financial ratio of these companies? What is the cash flow of that company? I mean, it's a full-time job from that point of view. So I would say that in case one has that passion, one should do all these things to become a better investor with time.
So you're suggesting कि स्टॉक कैसे पिक करना है उसके लिए आपको फुल टाइम बनना पड़ेगा, फुल टाइम फंड मैनेजर बनना पड़ेगा, इन शॉर्ट, इज इट?
हाँ सर, there's no shortcut to success, so there's no shortcut to investing. I mean sir, you've seen that people like us, we spend 16 years in the market and we daily 9 10 hours, and then also I mean it becomes difficult to beat the benchmark at times. Yeah. So I would say that for a retail investor, I mean one should focus on their core business and leave their money to professional hand to manage those money from that point of view, and one should be very careful. Yeah.
तो सर ये जो, सॉरी टू इंटरप्ट यू, जैसे तो जितने अभी मतलब मैं उस पॉइंट पे जाना नहीं चाहता, लेकिन जिस तरीके से अकाउंट्स ओपन हो रहे हैं और जिस तरीके से मतलब गांव में ट्रेडिंग चल रहा है, कुछ टिप्पणी करना चाहेंगे आप इस पे? एनी योर रिमार्क ऑन दिस?
Sure, sir. I mean, obviously, it's the last 18 months retail investor. I mean, I would say you've seen a flurry of retail money coming to the market, which, as you rightly said, the number of demat accounts we've seen get opened. I mean, that indicates that retail boom in India. So I would say just a couple of things I would say. One is not to get spoiled seeing last 12-month return. I mean, because it's been an easy money phase last 12 months. Things are never that easy and simple over a longer period of time. So I think one should tone down the expectation, and realistically 13 to 15% return expectation is fair to expect from the market, and one should position or build up a portfolio accordingly from that point of view. One is that. And secondly, sir, I mean, investing is a marathon, sir. It is not a sprint. So one has to use equity to achieve the longer term financial goal. So I would say be prudent with your money and use equity to reach your financial goal. And I mean, and more importantly, as I said, don't use leverage, because leverage is something which works well in a market like last 12 months. But I think in a bad market, it just I mean, takes you behind by 3, 5, 10 years. So please do not do that, sir. So that would be my few advice, sir.
Wow, thank you, sir. एक important चीज sir, I just got the update from you that at this point of time आप ऐसे कौन से segment है, ऐसी कौन सी theme है जिसपे आप banking कर रहे हो, या फिर आप उस पे फिलहाल bullish हैं valuation perspective से?
Sure, sir. I mean, some of the sectors I'll be positive is, so firstly, I'll be very bullish on banking at this juncture, because एक हम देखेंगे, banking as a sector has not done very well last 1 year and 3 years. So, I mean, it has a lot of value at this juncture, I would say. And whenever there's a macro recovery, banking is the biggest play on that recovery. So I would say that banking, but more importantly, the frontline banks, because banking is a leverage business. I mean, good banks tend to survive, and bad banks do very bad in a bad cycle. So last 12 months, whatever we've seen, asset quality of these frontline banks have been much better than expectation. So I would say they have become much stronger than the weaker one. So as and when next 12 months, next 20, 24 months, as and when the economy reflates, you will see these well-run private sector banks and also public sector banks will do very well in times to come. And more so, I think that is one part of the market which has one of the highest value, I would say. So banking would be my most promising sectors. Other sectors, in case I have to choose, other is the domestic healthcare business. I'm very positive actually. I mean, COVID has made us realize the value and importance of health. So I think going ahead also, healthcare spend will continue to remain high. So I am playing that through different companies in the entire healthcare chain. So be it a pharma company, be it a diagnostic company, or be it a hospital also for that matter. So domestic healthcare looks to be a promising segment. It is a proxy to consumption, though valuations are much more saner to consumption stock. So I think there's a multi-year theme which will do well. Some of the other theme I would be bullish on, one would be on the infrastructure and the real estate space. I mean, real estate we've seen they've gone to last 10 years, they've gone through lot of time correction. So I think so the recovery is also nascent at this juncture. But I think real estate and infrastructure should companies. In my portfolio, I'm playing it through a cement sector. I'm playing it through a building product company like a tile company or electrical company or an infrastructure company. So these are the three broader themes I would think should do well from a 2-3 year perspective.
So सर आपसे इंटरव्यू कर रहे हैं और आपके फंड के बारे में बात ना करेंगे तो अच्छी बात नहीं है. We have to speak about large and mid cap. So your take on how you are positioned Motilal Oswal large and mid cap at this point of time, and why one should really look into this particular space at this point of time. मतलब few important USPs of large and mid cap space.
Sure, sir. So this fund, Motilal Oswal Large and Mid Cap Fund, was launched 2 years back, around October 2019. So it will just complete 2 years next month. So what are the differentiators, I would say? One, as the name suggests, it's a large and mid cap fund. But we've seen, when we came, we said this is a large and mid cap fund. So we will maintain a 50-50 allocation between large cap and mid cap at all points of time. Because as I told you in the past also, that a 50-50 allocation works the best in the longer time frame, which kind of optimizes the return and the risk also. So without thinking too much, is a mid cap expensive, is a large cap expensive, we work with a 50-50 allocation at most of points of time. So I would say it is a proper multi-cap fund from that point of view. So you should remember that fund as a 50-50 fund. That is the first USP, I would say. The second USP is this is a fund, again, the tagline of the fund is invest in today's and tomorrow's leaders in one fund. So why have we put this tagline? Because we have a disproportionate share of allocation to leaders in their respective sectors. So in case I have to give you a number, 50% allocation is made to companies who are number one in their respective segment, and 87% allocation is made to companies who are within the top 5 in the respective segment. So our thought process is that the stronger company will become stronger and will do much better in times to come. As I said, I mean, it's a general human behavior. In a bad time, the ability of a stronger person is much higher to survive that crisis. Similarly, in a bad time, a stronger company does much better. So I would say a leader company, a stronger company will do much better in times to come because they've strengthened their moat in the difficult time of last 18 months. So I would say their market share could be higher and their profit growth could also be superior than what was in the past. So second point, as I said, high allocation to leaders in their respective segment is the second USP. On the third USP, I would say, look, the last 18 months, market has clearly segregated between sectors. On one hand, there have been sectors and businesses which have been positively impacted by COVID. On the other hand, there have been businesses which have been negatively impacted by COVID. So I would say that in line with my thought process, next 12 months, next 24 months, you will see a much more broad-based economic recovery. And when that happens, I would say there's an arbitrage investing in sectors and stocks which have not done very well during COVID time. So, I mean, a disproportionate share in the current portfolio would be allocated to that sector. And in case, again, I have to quantify, around 75% allocation is made to companies which will get positively benefited out of the economic recovery. And I'm saying that two different things. As I said in the past, banking could be one big sector, banking would be one sector, real estate related ancillary will be the other sector, industrial will be the another sector, and again consumer discretionary would also be one other sector. As and when you see the consumer step out, you will see discretionary categories pick up in times to come. So broadly, these will be the three USPs. And just to summarize, one, it's a 50-50 fund, so gives you a best of both the worlds of large and mid cap. Secondly, this is a fund having a high allocation to leaders. And thirdly, high allocation to economic recovery plays in the economy. And just to tell you one thing else, sir, I mean, generally, I mean, in my usual interaction, a lot of people say that having a 50% allocation is risky in mid cap. But I tell them just one thing. I mean, you have to extrapolate your investing journey like a car journey or something.
Right.
So just like you have to reach your destination on time, there's a financial goal you need to reach on time. So for that, you need the large cap, because large cap give you stability. So whenever there are bumpers, or the shock, those volatility. But at the same time, you have to reach your destination on time. So I think mid cap helps you reach the destination of time, because they give you best of both worlds in terms of reaching your financial goals on time, sir.
So great. सर अगर मैं ये कहूँ आपसे कि मतलब ये बहुत क्वेश्चन मैंने काफी लोगों से किया, आपसे भी कर रहा हूँ, आई डोंट वांट टू लीव यू विदाउट दैट. सो 0 to 100 valuation perspective, large cap, blue chip, large cap, mid cap, small cap, where you are looking at the valuations, cheap valuations precisely.
Sure. So because as I said, it is very difficult at most time to see where the value is. Like, I mean, 2018 to 2020, mid and small cap did not do very well. So last year it was very simple to say mid cap and small cap offer you higher value from that point of view. Yeah, sasta hai, mane it should give you more return. But I think last one year mein that arbitrage has got bridged. So mid cap and small cap have done much better than large cap. So I would say at this juncture, ऐसा कुछ क्लियर कट नहीं है कि स्मॉल कैप इज बेटर और लार्ज कैप इज बेटर फ्रॉम दैट पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू. देयर आर पॉकेट्स ऑफ वैल्यू एंड ग्रोथ इन ईच पार्ट. सो आई मीन मिड कैप में भी देयर आर स्टॉक्स व्हिच हैव वैल्यू, स्मॉल कैप में भी देयर आर स्टॉक्स व्हिच हैव वैल्यू, एंड लार्ज कैप में भी they have value. But I think at this juncture, how the run up has happened in mid and small cap, you cannot generalize that one part of the market is cheaper than the other part. But one thing you have to remember, sir, I mean, in case the economy pans out how I'm expecting in terms of a multi-earning growth cycle, you will see earning growth happen across sectors. Large cap will also do well, mid cap and small cap will tend to do slightly better from that point of view. Okay. So aisa nahi hai, it's not a case of large cap or mid cap. It's a case of all will do well. There will be points in time, 3 months, something could do well. But because in a bull market, what happens? You see very fast sector rotation. We were seeing mid and small cap do very well, but I think last month Nifty has done much better than mid and small cap, because that is a usual pattern which evolves in a good market or in a bull market. Because as and when there's exhaustion in one part of the market, you see other part of the market take up the mantle of taking the market higher. So I would say now, I mean, you cannot generalize that one part of the market is cheaper than the other part. There are pockets of cheapness in all different parts of the market, I would say, sir. So that's why I said, sir, having a balanced allocation across the 3 buckets could be a much better strategy for any investor.
Sorry, perfect. Sir, what would be आपकी advice retail investor के लिए अभी अगर कुछ और है या क्या करना चाहिए? Again, this your last take. बाकी तो आपने बहुत
as I said, sir. Sure, sir. As I said, sir, I think one should not see just last 1 year return and very money in the market, because one can lose money also really fast, just how the market has gone up. So the phase of easy money making has gone, I think. So I think for any investor, not just for retail investor, for a for investors like me also, I think you should tone down your expectation. You should think that market will give you a 13 to 15% return on an annualized basis. So in case you think that, then you will take, then you will, expectation has to be right before setting on any journey. अगर आप आपका एक जर्नी 10 घंटे का है, आप सोचोगे वो 5 घंटे में मेरे को कवर करना है, then you will write fast. अगर आप फास्ट चलाओगे क्या होगा, एक्सीडेंट होगा. So you have to be realistic in terms of your expectation. So I would say that firstly, tone down your expectation to a realistic level of 13 to 15%. And secondly, again, as I said, sir, market में पैसा. So one has to think of investing as a marathon, not as a sprint. And one has to have some financial goal. 5 साल में क्या चाहिए, 10 साल में क्या चाहिए, and accordingly one has to take commensurate effort, deployment from that point of view. So let's not forget the big picture of where we want to be in terms of any action we take in the market. So that this would be a broader, advice to myself also, my friends also.
So great, so great. सर, आपने आज बहुत सारी चीजों पे प्रकाश डाला. आपने स्टॉक कैसे पिक करने, QGLP क्या है, वैल्यूएशन कहाँ सही है, why the small and large and mid cap one has to really think of valuations की आपने काफी अच्छे से बात करी. So I'm very sure that lot many retail investors to whom so are watching this video, and they certainly will going to get the benefit out of it. And आपका reach experience 16 साल का जो है वो 19 हर रोज 19 घंटे आपने डाले हैं. So certainly that will add the huge value in the lives of people. Sir, thank you very much for coming on the show, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for having me on the show.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.